Alright, Demon Souls boss tier list. Here we are again. Sorry this one took a little while. Every time I turn on Demon Souls, I get stuck in Stonefang Tunnel farming gray stones for my strength character. But I did eventually get to recording it. I recorded it. I wasn't happy with the audio, so, well, with what I said in general. I said some bad things in that video. I need to retract my statements. So now I'm recording it again. Originally, I was going to do it so that I would rate the boss, and then I would rate its soundtrack compared to the original. I realized that one, most people do not give a fuck about any of these tracks except for these. Aside from these, no one gives a shit. And also the tracks for the Nexus and the Maiden in Black are also themes which people care about. I'm just gonna give my like a couple cents when we get to these bosses to talk about their soundtrack. But other than that, I'm not gonna make a whole segment where I just talk specifically about it. Right. So, without further ado, let us get into it. Vanguard. Strange start because Vanguard really is not a real boss fight. He is a tone setter. He is there to like set the tone, set your expectations for what you're about to meet. His whole point is that unlike a lot of the other bosses in this game, he has no gimmick. He has no weakness. The Vanguard demon is invincible. He has no weakness. Sure, you can run around him and do that, but it's arguable whether or not at that point in From Software's game development cycle they were aware of just how prevalent of a strategy that was going to become. Maybe they were, maybe they were not. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is that there are not many shields which can block the Vanguard. There's not a lot of armor that can protect you against the Vanguard. Rolling against him is iffy because his attacks are slow, timed weirdly, and they swing around him. He has those weird hitboxes when he butt slams. His whole point is he is supposed to be hard enough for someone who never ever touched a Souls game before to just basically guarantee killing them. If you get really good at playing this game, then you can create a new character and then beat him, but that's all feeding into the whole aspect of all these Souls games where it's all a cycle, it's all a cycle. Did all your New Game Plus cycles actually happen, or was it just a game mechanic? I don't know, I'm never going to say. I'm Hidetaka Miyazaki, I'm a social studies graduate. I'm never gonna tell you anything. So in terms of the fight itself, it's really hard to rate a fight that really isn't a real boss fight. I would say it does its job well, but it's not a real tutorial boss. The real tutorial boss of Demon Souls is Phalanx. So allow me to paint you the full picture. You're going through 1-1. Your classic stuff, you know, there's some fodder enemies, some stronger knights, some goofy compositions of enemies where there's guys up top shooting at you while someone else is taking your attention away from the archers which are pestering you, blah blah blah. Standard stuff. And then you slowly start seeing these weird blob things with spears and like, where did this come from? Like, this is quite a far fetch from the regular enemies. I was completely like chill with a dragon flying here, but this is a little weird. Then you fight the boss and it's just a whole pile of them. In terms of like how this conveys Longbow Ulan and her legions and all the storytelling behind that, I'll leave that up to the learned men. You know, I personally think about the boss fight in and of itself, and in my opinion, this is a fucking perfect tutorial boss. You're walking through the area. You're getting pine resins, fire bombs. You're finding various different weapons of all types. Bows, arrows, crossbows, whatever. Anything you want, you can just find a way to use it, and all of these things, all of the things you can find in the level work against Phalanx in some way, shape, or form. But whatever you pick up, It heavily dictates how you're going to fight the boss. Oh, you got a ranged weapon? Alright, run around and find the weak spot. Bait the little phalanx enemies to chase you and then run around the phalanx, like the whole thing. Yes, the whole phalanx. Run around it until you find the weak spot and then shoot it. You got firebombs? Alright, good job, you beat the boss. Just throw them endlessly. If you lost all firebombs, you're gonna have to farm some souls. Do you have pine resin? Alright, that means your weapon is like... It's genius. It is a perfect introduction to the mindset you should have when fighting all of the other bosses in Demon Souls. The Tower Knight. I might catch some flack for this one, but the Tower Knight as a fight I think is poorly executed. The gimmick is very clear, but the fight itself, it's not threatening enough for you to want to engage with the gimmick in any creative way. It's not really threatening at all. It feels more like a chore doing it all. Running around the walls to kill all the archers, and then go down and hit it 6 times until it falls down, then you can hit it. It lacks any of the pressure that all the other puzzle bosses force you into. Like, you wouldn't say about Fool's Idol that she's not pressuring you enough to actually engage with her gimmick, or the Man-Eaters, or even the Old Monk, or even, I don't know, Maiden Estrella, or the fucking Old Hero. Like, they all have a very distinct gimmick, whereas the Tower Knight feels more like a chore. Sure, visually great, epic and all that. Wow, that's so strange. The last thing I thought I would see after going through the hell that is 1-2. But it's just a chore. It's not that fun. Don't worry, I'm not a hater of puzzle bosses. That's why I put him here. Look, Phalanx is S. Puzzle bosses are great. Don't worry. But alright, yeah. Tower Knight, good boss fight, shit boss fight, no one cares. Seriously now. What about the soundtrack? Is the remake soundtrack peak, or is it dog shit? The Tower Knight soundtrack is a perfect... Well, it's not perfect, but it is a good example of the ideology that Bluepoint had when they were making the soundtrack for the remake. Let's just... That was a statement that I just made. Let's now go into a different sentence. The original soundtrack, it starts with, yeah, the funny choir, haha, it sounds so stupid and weird and cheap. No one cares. What is it actually supposed to mean? Well, it's supposed to be just regular choir. If the theme for the Tower Knight, if Demon Souls was made today by From Software, not Bluepoint, today, the theme for Tower Knight would probably be very similar to what Bluepoint made in the remake. Don't even lie. Don't lie. We have this boss called the fucking Soul of Cinder, and the first phase is a far-fetched from what Gwyn should be. We have this boss called the Abyss Watchers, and that theme is 10 times more epic than Artorias the Abyss Walker, despite being a very clear nod to it. Don't lie. If From Software made Demon Souls today, it would be very similar to the remake, except the original's filter would be applied non-stop, and everything would be gray, brown, fucking black. Only Elden Ring was allowed to have any form of color. So the original, it starts with an epic choir. What is that for? Well, it's supposed to be like you're fighting a big knight, big scary knight. Look at this. A sort of commentary on not just the knight, the Tower Knight, but also on Boletaria as a whole. It's this big superpower place. No one can ever oppose Boletaria. The only thing that can oppose Boletaria is Boletaria itself. So it starts really big, bombastic, and then it slowly transitions into something more sad and somber and strangely depressing, almost like a lamentation of it all. Like, oh, look at this, Look at the state of this. Even this massive empire with literal magic to support everything eventually fell. It all eventually fell. A depressing sort of state of it all. Look at this Tower Knight. Look at this hyperbolic caricature of what the actual Tower Knight used to be. Of what Alfred the Knight of the Tower used to be. Look at how the demons bastardized his vision. All his attributes and all his accomplishments and whatever that he ever made, the reason why he is the Knight of the Tower, none of that matters. All the demons saw was just big guy in a suit of armor with big shield. He's the knight as tall as the tower. It's like the literal Japanese name for him, I think. A good sort of a it's a good theme. They reused it for Penetrator because I don't fucking know, but whatever. The remake, on the other hand, is a complete different point of view. You see this a lot in all of the soundtracks of this. They don't look at the individual tracks and feel like, oh, look at the nuance that all of the individual sounds are saying. Look at the dialogue that is going on in this specific part of the song. The remake isn't looking at that. The remake soundtrack is a rendition of the original. Quite often you will hear that the original track is almost fully there in the song in the tracks that the remake is using. But there's just a lot of stuff added on top. Why bother? Why not just literally do the same thing that you did with Vanguard over here and just do the exact same song 1-to-1 but with modern instruments and a little more expensive? Why even bother recomposing the tracks? Well, that's because Bluepoint clearly did care. I know it doesn't sound like it, nor does it look like it, but you have to understand the entirety of Demon's Souls and all of the Souls games are constantly going on and on about how it's all a cycle. It's all a cycle. Oh, the human nature. Look at the state of the human soul. Oh my god, our intelligence, whatever. This, that, and the other. The best way to describe the form of storytelling or the overall feeling that the storytelling of the Souls games tries to invoke is these games do not give a fuck about themselves. They don't give a fuck. They just exist. They do their fucking thing and they do not care. The remake, when Bluepoint approached it, they approached it with this view of, oh bro, back when I used to play Demon's Souls, this shit was crazy. Y'all kids have it easy nowadays. Y'all don't know how crazy it was fighting against the Flame Lurker in pure Black World Tendency in Stonefang Tunnel. That shit changed a man. They look at this game and they think, oh, bro, Demon's Souls was fucking epic. Bro, this old monk guy, there's this dude with a yellow rag running around. That's so fucking cool. It's weird, but it's so fucking cool and fresh and spicy and has the exaggerated swagger of a black teen. They thought Demon's Souls was cool, so that's why all of the soundtracks are just weird, cooler, more epic renditions of the originals. Because one, Sony gave them a lot of money, and two, they thought that Demon's Souls deserves it. They believe that Demon's Souls was the game. It's not only as good as all the other Souls games, it might even be better in their eyes. So that's why it should be as cool as... That's why the tracks of Tower Knight should be as cool as the fucking Soul of Cinder. That's why Flame Lurker should be as bombastic as Medeer. That's why fucking... I don't know... Over here, what's his name? Alant should be as grandiose and a massive commentary on just your experience through the game as a whole with Demon's Souls. Same as for example, I don't know, what was the final boss of... Oh yeah, Sekiro, yeah. Sword Saint Ishin, like, unnecessarily epic. Why in this Japanese soundtrack are you suddenly just putting in shitloads of choir? Genichiro Ashina, literally the second phase is nothing but choir. Why? Because that fight is epic. Again, like I'm telling you right now, if From Software made Demon Souls today, the soundtrack would be epic slop. Orchestral epic slop, just like how it is right now. The fact that Putrescent Knight didn't have just overly bombastic choir blasting the entire way through, that was an exception proving the rule. From Software is not interested in old monk music or the old hero music no more. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Basically, in my opinion, the soundtrack for the Tower Knight is worse than the original. But the soundtrack for the Penetrator, I mean, come on, don't even. Anyway, Armored Spider. Well, rating the Armored Spider is a little difficult for me, despite the fact that my feelings for it have not changed ever since I played the original Demon Souls. Way back fucking years ago on my friend's PS3. I hopped on after we left some fucking party or whatever the fuck it was. It was like some celebration of a holy day or whatever, and we left and I hopped on his PS3 and I played fucking Demon Souls, bomb rushed it to Flame Lurker. I remember fighting Flame Lurker with like 57 Crescent Moon Grasses as my only source of healing. That shit was peak. Got to Flame Lurker in 2 hours. Man. Ugh. And even then I remember that the Armored Spider was a fight which I sort of really enjoyed. I like this fight. I think it is well executed. Everything about it works just fine. It is a unique gimmick boss, but unlike some of the other unique gimmick bosses, especially in the later Souls games, its gimmick, despite being very limiting, is not as annoying or obtuse. It all sort of makes sense. The way it fights, it has a strategy of it wants to web you up first. It wants to cover you in web first, and then it will shoot a firebomb at you while you're slowed down. Like that's makes sense. It's simple, but it makes sense and makes the fight feel like like it knows what it's doing. This is its lair. It knows how to use its environment to its advantage, and you're intruding upon it. It's really fun. Really cool that they used that another asset flip from a different game was used so creatively in Demon Souls. Yeah, I believe well executed is just the right spot. Different builds can do different strategies against this boss, despite it being a gimmick fight, which usually carries the stigma of no, you can only beat me this one way. You can do different crazy shit against this boss fight, and it's really fun. Yeah, I don't know. What do you want from me, huh? What do you want from me? Flame Lurker. Well, we can skip the preamble. This is the best fight in the game. No. It's not the best fight in the game because it is the hardest. No. It's not the best fight in the game because it is the most aggressive and fast. I'm not one of those fucking adrenaline junkies that likes the Souls games because of their difficulty. What makes Flame Lurker a great boss fight is just how simply it achieves all of those things. The Flame Lurker is not... Well, he is quite aggressive, but it's so deceptively simple. It has 3 attacks, more or less. A swipe, which can be done from each side. That it has 0 range, but it will hit you and do a little bit of damage, stagger you out of your hit, so to ensure you can't just face fuck. You can't just face tank Flame Lurker. It has the big main explosion, his main source of damage. That's more or less the main gimmick which you have to work around in various ways. It as an attack was already like you were already sort of taught how to fight against this attack in the level beforehand. The bear bugs explode in a similar way. The minecarts have the little exploding little thing on them. Works the exact same way. Throughout the entire level, you were like, fire is a big damage type. You better get ready against fire, bro. It's great. There's clear counters to it. The purple flame shield, the water veil spell. You can maybe use the flame resistance ring if you really want to do a lot of mental gymnastics into justifying that ring's existence. It's really fun. It has a specific weakness to magic. Like, there's a lot of different ways of counter-playing against this boss fight, and that's why it is good. And yet, despite all of those things, it still holds its own, which is important. It holds its own, which means all the options at your disposal you have to consider. You have to engage with this boss fight. You don't just come in, boss dead, and that's it. Like some other bosses, which we will get to eventually. That's why a Flamelurker is S tier boss fight. Now, again, what about the soundtrack? Is it better? Well, again, my sentiment to this is I'm a sort of fence-sitter middleman. I believe both of the soundtracks are good for all of these games. For both the original and the remake, I like them both. I feel they are both equally as good of a track, equally as fitting of a track for the game that they are in. With the one exception of the remakes, fucking Nexus and Maiden in Black themes. Those are dog shit. I hate the droning, fucking slow choir music. No. I hate when they use droning, slow fucking music in Bloodborne for the main theme. I hate it when they used it for the Elden Ring's Round Table Hold theme. I hate it when the first theme of Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 3 was just some slow, pathetic little white noise soundtrack. I fucking despise it. It's terrible, it's dog shit. Give me weird, repetitive, melodic fucking shit any day of the week. Any day of the week over some slow, droning bullshit, white noise. Get out of here with that shit. But in this specific fight, there's a very, very like stark difference between the two. Specifically, I believe the one which feels most out of place is the original's track. Why is it slow? Why is one of the loudest, most aggressive boss fights in this game equipped with the slowest, weirdest soundtrack? It's so unfitting. Well, I have a little tinfoil theory for that. I believe that during development of the original Demon's Souls, Miyazaki came up to the composer and was like, "Yo, bro, we're making this boss fight. His name is Flamelurker. Do your thing. Cook your shit, my brother." And the composer was like, "Flamelurker? What am I supposed to do about that? Okay, can I like see some concept art and shit?" And they show him. You remember the concept art from the original Demon's Souls art book? Like it. The first versions of Flamelurker look nothing like what either one of the versions of Flamelurker we have today. It looks nothing like the remake, looks nothing like the original Demon's Souls Flamelurker. It's a weird... What is that thing? Just straight up. I hope I can find a picture and put it in the video right now. Like, so the composer saw that and heard the name Flamelurker, or I don't know if maybe in the Japanese it was like the one who lurks within the flame or some shit. They didn't even tell him the lore because they probably didn't even have it ready at that point. And he was like, okay, shit, well, it's like, he lurks in the flame, so I guess it's something stealthy. I guess it should be slow. Flame is like big, dangerous, so some like booming instruments which slowly sing. It sounds kind of like a funeral because flames, burial, you know, like shit, I don't know, I'm gonna cook something. Then he cooked up the theme for the Flamelurker, gave it to Miyazaki, and he was like, oh my god, bro. My social studies graduate diploma is crying right now. This thing is so peak. I am 14 and it is so deep. This is not even close to what we envisioned the theme for the Flame Lurker to be, but goddamn, what you brought to me is such peak that I'm like, yeah, we're gonna put it in the game and not even pay attention to how well it fits with the actual boss fight. And I believe that is how we got the original theme for Flame Lurker. Now, of course, the remake is a lot more bombastic, crazy, epic fucking Bloodborne shit. You may argue, that completely ruins the vision of the original. I would argue, I think it captures a lot better the actual feelings you have when fighting the actual Flame Lurker boss fight. But again, I'm a fence sitter. I like both. I like both. I am no longer the Souls elitist, which is like, no, From Software is the only video game company which understands video games. Only they can make peak. Everyone else who desperately attempts to emulate them is dog shit. Night Rain will be terrible because Miyazaki is not directing it and all that. I am past that phase of my life. I am enlightened now. And that enlightenment happened when I started playing different games than Souls games. I know, crazy, right? Anyway, Dragon God. This fight is shit. It's shit. The gimmick... Look at it like this. The gimmick works well. It's a stealth boss. You have to be careful. His eyes and whatever. He can sometimes charge up a punch, and if he goes away, he's still holding the punch. So as soon as he sees you, he's gonna let it go, even though he should be waiting a little bit, and all that stuff. There's depth. It all works. Everything is exactly as they wanted it to work. But in the end, what we have is a repetitive, boring, on the rails, fucking press 2 buttons and then hit his chin kind of shit. There is no, if you have spells, you can shoot at him from a distance. There is no, the arena is massive, so you can go to one side, bait him into looking at that side, and then run around all the way to the other side. Fucking massive marathon run over to somewhere else, and along the way you have to fight whatever and jump over fucking lava or whatever. No, it's just a tiny little room with a couple hallways that you walk through, do the same thing like 6 different times, and then it's done. The fight is done. Wow. It's peak, I know, right? Nah. Fool's Idol. I believe if you have seen the Dark Souls 1 boss tier list, then you know that I have already glazed Fool's Idol a little bit. I already said a couple nice things about this boss fight. So you're probably expecting me to put this dogshit gimmick fight somewhere like, I don't know, B, maybe A. Yeah, he's one of those weird guys that actually likes the gimmick fights. One of those weirdos that actually likes those. One of those weirdos that thinks Promised Consort Radahn is a shit fight. So he's gonna probably give it like A or whatever. Nah, bitch. I think this is one of the best gimmick bosses From Software has ever designed. I love Fool's Idol. No, really, I do. I would let her paralyze and shoot fucking soul rays at me all day long, bro. No kizzy. Think about it. Allow me to paint you another picture. Latria. Massive departure from what you're used to. Stonefang Tunnel was quite a departure from classic Boletaria, but it still had a lot of fodder enemies. It still was sort of the regular bizzow that you expect from Souls games, you know, fodder enemies, some stronger ones, careful for the traps around the level. Whoa. Latria is nothing like that. It is straight up just horror. You walk around places which are specifically designed to get you lost. You have to read tiny little letters about, oh, this is the fucking east 4th floor, okay, and I have the key for the 3rd floor west. The merchant is on this side, doing that. Rydell is on the 2nd level on the east. No, he's on the... no, wait, where is Frake? He's in there. All the while, you're getting pestered by mind flayers, which can basically one-shot you from a distance with just their soul ray, and in case they miss, they'll do a differently timed, slower projectile which paralyzes you, so they can straight up run up to you, do a grab, take off half of your HP, and then follow up with a massive explosion, which if you dare hit the Mind Flayer during their attack animation, and you do not have enough space to backstab them, you're gonna die. First of all, what a crazy idea for a location that was, by the way, never ever repeated. Even the Abyssal Woods could not get it right. Second of all, amazing atmosphere just by the gameplay alone. So you're walking through this, eventually you go down, and in the distance you see this weird ball of people doing their goofiness. Like, what is all this? Then there's an Iron Maiden that shoots arrows at you throughout the whole thing. You're opening other Iron Maidens and bodies are falling out of it. And then there's this lady singing the entire time. She's selling you shit, telling you lore. There's this other guy who is screaming like a constipated idiot. And then there's Frake just chilling like, oh, bring me more demon souls, my apprentice. Like, fucking crazy ass location. What sort of boss fight would you even put at the end of this level? What better boss fight there would be than some sort of puppeteer who duplicates herself? You have to find the right one, and as you're trying to find her, you constantly getting blocked by chairs. Weird little prisoners that don't even do damage, they're just like waving their arms around like, "Aah!" And she's putting down traps and shooting you with massive, super dangerous spells. She's constantly laughing at you. The music is insane. And then you kill her. And some dickhead from up above revives her. Bro. When people say, the runbacks to a boss really add to the atmosphere. It makes sure that there is something you can lose when you are defeated by the boss fight. There are stakes at play here. I'm like, shut the fuck up, bro. Not even From Software agrees with you. They put up the stakes of America all over Elden Ring in very inconvenient places, usually, but they're still there. Like, fuck out of here with all that. But in Demon Souls, with this boss fight, it's the only one where I'm genuinely convinced, yeah, this fight needed a long run back. There needed to be that tension, that horror, that stress to it all. Absolute peak. Man-eaters. Well, let's leave it in the green room. So after the Fool's Idol, after that horrific, traumatic experience, some two weird fucking stone things grab you and carry you up to this weird place. You're balancing on small little bridges. There's these weird 15-headed centipedes walking around, and these gargoyles flying around, falling off even though they have wings, but they'll still sometimes fall off because they're idiots, shooting crossbows at you and whatever, running away from you most of the time, but whatever. You go down this weird fucking swamp. There's another one of those balls of people around. There's shit here, mercury stone. What the fuck? Why would I ever use mercury for anything? These mind flayers are now black phantoms. What is going on here? All of this, you have to drop some heart. What the fuck is all this? And you go into the boss room. You were taught to pay attention to your footing. So of course the boss fight is going to be all about dropping you off from a massive cliff. The pressure of having to fight two enemies while you are on a quite sizable but still fairly small bridge, and you can fall off at any time, and there's stairs, and there's a fucking brazier which you can use as cover from their projectiles, which also just try to knock you off the bridge and all that. It all serves perfectly to ensure that the man-eaters are always a scary fight. They're always threatening, no matter how good your shield is, no matter how high your levels are. They always have that danger of insta-killing you. Normally you'd be like, what the fuck is this? If this boss fight was in Boletaria, you'd be like, what is this fight? What is this bullshit? What is this? Huh? What is this? But only in Latria 3-2 does this boss fight fit. It's the entire way. You've been taught how to fight flying enemies while you have to balance, not trying not to fall off. You've been taught how to use cover against projectiles, how to split apart multiple enemies down in the swamp using environments. I don't think I need to be the first to say, like, this fight is peak. Or, yeah, I know, it is broken as all hell. It is very buggy. If you have the Thief's Ring, then the man-eaters will just fly away and forget about you, because they're that fucking stupid. And Demon Souls is held together with duct tape and spit. But still, bro, this is one of the best gang bosses ever made. Like, it's still quite fair, even, because the man-eaters themselves, they have also like 2 real attacks. One is the punch, the other one is a delayed, like, overhead bigs with both of their hands slamming into the ground. Then they have the charge, which is the real attack. Okay, so that's 3 attacks. They have a lot more, but whatever. You get what I mean. It's fucking peak. Now, Old Monk. Old monkey boy over here. The architect of all the torture that you had to go through in Latria, finally. He dies before you even enter the boss room. So obviously the argument isn't, is this a good fight? Is this a hard fight? Hard and fair fight? No, it isn't. It's another player. It's gonna be the most toxic bullshit you've ever seen. So the argument isn't really, is it a good fight? It's more of a... It's literally, it can be only one of 2 things. It's either peak or it's dog shit. Because it's either, yes, the idea of another player being a boss fight is good, or it's, no, the idea of another player being a boss fight is a terrible idea. I am not a fence sitter in this. I'm not gonna pull at you with some sort of, it's an average fight. I think they both level each other out in terms of quality. I am full on the side of this is genius. There's nothing more unpredictable, nothing more forcing of creativity than another player. There's nothing more fun than fighting another player. You can cry all you want about the bad red man. Nah. Open your mind. Open up your possibilities to what can happen. Embrace the toxicity of PvP, and you will understand just how unbelievably fun it is to shit on someone as the bad red man, or as the good not red man, as the funny host. The only problem with this fight is that unlike a lot of the other NPC regular fights in Demon Souls, the actual NPC for Old Monk is stupidly easy. Very limited range, very low damaging weapons. It's like this fight was specifically designed to be easy. It's like, why though? All that is doing is incentivizing people to not engage with the gimmick of the fight. Why would you do that? Instead, what I would do is, the NPC that is summoned is someone wearing Yurt's armor. So they're an assassin that is, or a mercenary that is hired by the Soul Society to kill other people that practice magic. Lol. So why not just make it that this boss fight, when you're offline, cycles through 3 different NPCs using 3 different weapons. One of them could have a flamberge or some shit, I don't know. Why not, like, at least try and make it so that people would prefer to fight the player as opposed to the NPC? Because, like, the fact that it's fighting a player is the whole point of this fight, but whatever. Still, genius idea. Half-Light Spear of the Church, same thing. It's peak. It's peak. The Adjudicator's gimmick is that you're supposed to, from the higher levels, you're supposed to bait the tongue attack so that you can then jump down and hit the weak spot a lot more reliably, because it's exposing it a lot more. In reality, you can completely ignore the Adjudicator's attacks 90% of the time. They probably won't even hit you. They probably won't even kill you when they do hit you. And you can just hug his left side of his belly and just keep whacking at that wound until he falls over. You hit the head, he gets up, repeat. Like, bro. It gets a little bit of a bonus point for the fact that you can use ranged attacks against it to like hit the head, and if you do that, then the boss will adapt and use different attacks to try and keep like, being dangerous, even though you're using a different strategy. Alright, cool, great, but let's be honest here. The Tower Knight did basically everything the Adjudicator did, but better, and even the Tower Knight was feeling very like repetitive and boring. You need some more shit to it. You need a little bit more spice, bro. Old Hero. This is a weird fight. I really like this fight. I like that he's blind, that you have various different options for how to abuse this clear weakness of the fight to your advantage. I have two problems, however. One, the arena is just a thin little hallway. If you want me to engage in stealth, put in a little bit more effort into the arena. Just like a couple, like, different places I can hide in. Like, it's a longer hallway, but the pillars are like a soft separation of it, so there's like, I don't know, like more dynamicness in the arena would have been better. Maybe another level up top that the old hero can jump upon to chase you, so you can do like weird goofiness that way to trick its AI, as opposed to just putting on the Thief's Ring, which you probably have on all the time anyway. And the other one is, the old hero spends way too much of the boss fight slamming its sword into the ground and causing an explosion. The attack in and of itself is fine, but in all honesty, it is pushing you a lot more to the entire rest of his moveset is pushing you towards engaging with his gimmick a lot more than this explosion thing, which makes the fight feel a lot more repetitive. But in general, I'd say he's average. He's alright. He's not bad. Nothing just outright is terrible about this boss fight or exceedingly exceptional. Storm King. Now this is the part where the remake, in all honesty, this is where the remake really shines. Now yes, I know. The original, it's a manta ray because the shadow men, the people of the island thought that the manta rays on the ground were like ancient deities which fell from the sky, so that's why they worshipped it. Whatever lives in the sky must look something like this weird manta ray creature or whatever. I don't know. They worship birds and shit. It's supposed to be some weird eldritch entity, and there's a whole like legend about there's a sword which can cut through the storms. Oh, what? That's crazy. And then the demons came and they're like, well, look at this legend and this ideology of the birds and shit. I'm gonna make myself look exactly like this and all that. And the soundtrack is all slow and alien and look how weird this is. What? That's so crazy. But like, bro, this is not some supreme study of eldritch horrors. This is the Shrine of Storms. You're about to die, bro. I'm getting pinned by suppressing fire from the little manta rays while my sword literally shoots storms out of it, and I have to hit this weird fucking flying manta ray, bro. This is not some weird silly little commentary. This is the Shrine of Storms. You're about to die, bro. If I was rating this based on the original, it would be like C. It's repetitive, it's boring. You just grab the sword, swing on the manta rays, then swing on the Storm King, and it's done. Wowzers! Like, it's clearly the big coolness of this fight is supposed to be that you're literally grabbing a sword out of the ground and shooting literal storms, swinging storms at the enemy. It's supposed to be cool. That's the whole point in the original. The remake looked at it and was like, alright, well, let's actually make it cool. And in the remake, I would say it is well executed. Only in the remake. The original is like C. It is dog shit. In the remake, I actually feel things while fighting this boss. Leechmonger. A strange boss fight. At first, when I fought this boss, I was like, whatever. Classic Valley of Defilement L. You know, nothing special. You run up to it, you use fire, swing, it's done. Wow, bro, epic. Later, I realized how strangely dynamic and weird this boss fight is. Depending on where you are, like the elevation, the level at which you are against the boss, like whether you are all the way up top or whether you're like around the middle or whether you're literally right in front of it, the strategy to fight the Leechmonger changes. You're either shooting it from afar, dodging the big balls of leeches that it's throwing at you, or you're running in, hitting it a couple times, then when it like turns around to face you and hit you with its mean right hook, really mean right hook, then you run away again and you circle around all the time, or right up front you just face fuck the fuck out of this motherfucker. Throw one of those cracked eye stones, I think it was. Whatever it is called, I don't know if it's in the original, but I do know that it is in the remake. You can throw that at the Leechmonger and it won't heal. And all that. It's actually quite dynamic in terms of, in the end. Sure, yes, it dies like a minute or so, but whatever, bro. If we're gonna base this based on how quickly a boss dies, like a lot of these bosses are just like down here. No one cares. In my opinion, B. It's pretty good. Dirty Colossus. This fight, man. There's a reason why its theme is the worst tier in this tier list. It is just straight up bad. In case you don't know, I'm sure all you Demon Souls veterans are well aware of this, but anyone who like played it once, maybe, if you're watching this video for some fucking reason, in case you don't know, the gimmick of the Dirty Colossus is that it shoots these flies everywhere, and if these flies hit you, your healing is reduced and you take ticks of damage. In order to get rid of that, you have to jump into the fire. The little burning people all over. You have to jump into it to cleanse yourself of the flies, and then it's back to normal. I'm sure you don't even know that because, one, this boss fight dies before it even gets to do anything. But if it does hit you with the flies, usually it is such a minuscule detriment during a very unthreatening boss that ignoring the gimmick does not hamper your performance in any significant way. If your gimmick is literally so minuscule that it doesn't even matter anymore, you failed. I do have to say one thing though. The original soundtrack, yes, it's silly and weird and goofy and terrible and very unique, But come on, if you think that the remake soundtrack is worse because it's no longer as funny or it's too epic, I'm like, fuck out of here, bruh. Get the fuck out of here, bruh. Did you actually listen to it? Are you actually being charitable to the remake soundtrack? Because I doubt it. Clouded by nostalgia type shit. This motherfucker has one of the best tracks in the remake, bro. Get out of here. Made in Australia. The fight, absolute peak. A great example of From Software's storytelling, when it works. Usually it doesn't. Only in this game will this kind of fight work and do exactly what it is trying to achieve, what message it is trying to convey. Only in this game that is known to be very hard, and its difficulty forces you to think outside of the box against these enemies and the bosses as well. Only in this game would it work that the gimmick of the fight is literally making you contemplate whether what you're doing is the good thing. It's amazing. Sure, yes, the fight with Garl Vinland is terrible. He either parries you or you parry him, and then you backstab chain the fuck out of him. In the remake, they graciously gifted us with the rusted iron ring, called the Sodden Ring, I think, in the remake. So you can actually make the fight interesting, where you literally run past Garl Vinland to hit Maiden Astraea, and then run like back to get him away from her, so you can create distance, then run back to Maiden Astraea and hit her. That you have a lot more options in the remake, thanks be to just one simple addition of a ring. But in general, this fight is just so perfectly designed. The various ways you can go. There's the swamp with the babies. You don't go there because they are invincible and they give you the plague. There's the little side path from which you can shoot at the boss, and Garl Vinland will run down to desperately try and block the arrows and fail terribly. Or you can just go fight Garl Vinland and all that. It's amazing. It's genius, and the whole just concept of it. The entire way through Demon Souls, you were led to believe that the church is just stupid, ignorant, a bunch of fucking idiots. You look at Sage Frake, this guy that is considered to be an evil motherfucker by the church. This guy, we gotta put him down. Some people, they don't deserve the love of God. They gotta go. And Sage Frake, look at this fucker. He's sitting there in his corner, surrounded by books and scrolls. Oh my god. Kill him now. Kill him now. Take him away from here, please. Meanwhile, Saint Urbain, our our gracious, humble little Saint Urbain, surrounded with shitloads of gold, bread, apples, and all forms of food, while the entirety of Boletaria is in ruin and starving. You see all of this, then you hear about Maiden Astraea, and the NPC that you talk to before you reach her keeps saying basically shit like, this fucking witch, she came, bewitched the people, she did the skulls, she scowled at my boy, fucking this little wench, what a prick that girl is. Then you meet her and she's arguably one of the nicest people in the entirety of the game. Just straight up using her powers, like breaking out of her ignorance and then using powers of evil to desperately try to save those who are absolutely the worst off out of everyone, not just right now during the Scourge of the Demons, but in all of history of the fucking kingdom of Boletaria. The Valley of Defilement was always there, and finally someone actually came and did and at least tried to do something about it. But, as things are, she has to go, because the Slayer of Demons needs souls. Either to feed the old one, or to save the world, quote unquote. What an amazing fight. Now again, yes, the remake soundtrack is not the same. The original, again, is one of those I don't really give a fuck about my own self sort of things. It is a statement of the entirety of the situation as a whole, a sort of Buddhist ideology. It's all a cycle, you know, shit just happens. As Gandhi once said, we are all here just to fuck, you know? That's what, like, the original is. That's, like, the original just is a simple, like, it simply just alludes to this undeniable fact of reality of, like, shit happens. It is all a cycle. Meanwhile, the remake is trying its hardest to ensure that you feel the desperation, the depression, the will, the last bits of will that this war veteran, Garl Vinland, is pulling out of his left bum cheek to desperately try and do anything to protect Maiden Astraea from you. To, like, I don't know, they both have their merit, in my opinion. In my opinion, they both have their merit. You can cry all you like about how unique the original soundtrack is. They both have merit. Cry about it. L. The Penetrator. Quite average. I really like the Penetrator. Of course, his theme in the remake absolutely elevates the boss fight a lot higher. This fight only gets better on repeat New Game Plus cycles, as long as you don't summon Bior. I'm not one of those people that hates summoning, that will fucking crucify you as soon as you summon anyone for any boss fight. You summoned for my favorite boss fight. Who was it? Quelaag. You summoned for my favorite boss fight in Dark Souls 1. You should be killed, crucified, whipped, put in the pillory, and hanged. I don't care. But what I do care is that when I'm forced to summon someone, the boss fight doesn't adapt to this unfortunate reality of having to fight two people. Instead, what it does is just like a brainless idiot, it keeps switching between the two people, constantly getting stuck, attacking at random with no rhyme or reason, having zero strategy. Like, remember, this is one of the first bosses where you can, like, engage in summoning without being online, and, like, from Dark Souls, from Demon Souls all the way to Elden Ring, they still have not figured out how to make bosses actually like fun when you summon someone else. Like dangerous, fun, and engaging when you summon someone else. They just increase their damage, increase their health. Oh, now they're harder to stagger and their attacks cover the entire arena. Big hoopla, bro. But the fight itself is pretty good. You don't have to spam roll against everything this fight does. You can just shimmy across the side to dodge it. Of course, that's always a plus in my book. Alternative ways of dodging the attack that are risky, really good. Of course, this fight, similar to a lot of the like quote-unquote second fights in all of the Archstones, is a skill check. Just a hard sort of, are your stats high enough? Because if they are not, then there is no point for us to even have a progression system in this game. So are your stats high enough to survive at least a couple hits against the pursuer? The penetrator, the flamelurker, the man-eaters, blah blah blah, you know. Shit like that. Well, you're not surviving against the man-eater or whatever. He's average. He's average. He's mid. He's mid. Now... False King Aland. I had a revelation when fighting this boss fight. I realized that back when I critiqued Promised Consort Radahn, I took an absolute shit on that boss, rightfully so. It is a terribly generic boss for how unique of a game Elden Ring is and how crazy insane its bosses can be. But I realized that Radahn is just another in the iteration of supreme challenging enemies, supreme challenging legendary heroes that From Software really likes. In Demon Souls it's False King Aland, in Dark Souls 1 it's Gwyn, in Dark Souls 2 it's like Sir Alon or Fume Knight maybe. Nah, Sir Alon is much more fitting. In Dark Souls 3, it's the Nameless King, it's Slave Knight Gale, it's Frida, like... In Sekiro, it's fucking Sword Saint Ishid. It's in Bloodborne, it's supposed to be Gehrman, then Maria, because Gehrman sucked. It's just like... It's an endless cycle. The legendary, supreme fucking warrior. It's so tryhard and pathetic. He's such a mid-boss. It's so boring, bro. Wow, he's doing the super powerful anime attack where he causes an explosion. Wow, he flies across the arena. He's so quick. Get out of here, bro. I'll take Penetrator with his gimmick of desperately trying to impale you on his sword. Or over these fucking... idiots that keep swinging quickly, have no strategy, are just a boots on the ground test of skill. Fuck out of here, boring ass shit. Now, last boss, True King Aland. He's not here, so I'm just gonna like put a funny little image of him, an artistic rendition of the boss fight. I'm gonna put it somewhere, and in my opinion, it is absolutely deserving of SS+. It was so ballsy of them in the difficult game to just have a blob. A worthless, defenseless blob. Well, not completely defenseless, but a very pathetic blob be the final boss. After all this build-up towards the king, he ruined everything, but he was a good king. What happened here? It's kind of like Astrea. He lost his faith. He was like his son. He's kind, too kind almost. Too kind for Boletaria as the slave trade empire that it used to be. Well, not slave trade, but the kingdom built by slaves, abusing its people for its own benefit to become the superpower that rules over the world. Of course this guy is the guy that like ruins everything. And then at the end he's just a small little blob and hiding inside this massive being that it keeps getting alluded to all the time, the old one. Mwah. Peak, another one of those peak storytelling of From Software boss design that we will never ever get again, ever. Like, I sincerely doubt the final Night Rain boss will be another pathetic blob commentating on fucking, I don't know, the elitism in the community. Whatever. It is great. So, this is it. Surprisingly, not a lot of terrible fights. I like Demon's Souls. I especially like its boss fights. I believe the design philosophy of Demon's Souls' boss fights is the ideal philosophy for designing boss fights. Rather vexingly, they are the most replayable, most fun out of all the bosses, as opposed to like Knight Artorias, who you always fight the same exact way. That is it. Next up, we're gonna go to Bloodborne, which means I will have to fight the urge to not get stuck in the Chalice dungeons farming for the perfect blood gems for the 1500th time. It will be hard, but I might be capable of pulling such a thing off. And we're gonna go to Sekiro, and then I don't know. Well, then we're going to probably move on to raiding the bosses of Darkest Dungeon. Sure, that's a possibility. We're definitely gonna continue that Vitrine Grind series. I like playing that game. It's really fun. Despite the suffering, I really like playing that game. Webcomic progress update. In case you don't know, in my previous tier list, I foolishly and naively announced that I'm making a webcomic. I am still making it. It is all written out, like the rough bullet points of what's going to happen. That is all done. I already like tried a little bit of drawing the pages, whether or not I can even draw fucking comic pages. I can, maybe. They won't look good, but they never will look good in my eyes, so whatever. Yeah, it'll be long before anything substantial actually comes out in this regard, but I'm working on it, and I hope at least one of you that watches these tier lists and hears my rambles will read it, maybe. Well, you don't actually have to read it. You can just write into the comments that you did, and that'll be good enough for me, you know. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. See you later, and goodbye.